Welcome to the Prince Eats. Check out this video for quick and easy beef lo mein. Ingredients are in the description. If you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, please like, comment, subscribe, and share. This one is simple and easy to make and will save you some money if you love takeout. The ingredients for this recipe are very simple, many of which are available at your local grocery store. Here I have sliced carrots. I purchased them already cleaned, washed, and sliced, ready to go in a bag. Next is Bok Choy. This is the baby variety. If you don't have Bok Choy at your local grocery store, you certainly can opt for any kind of cabbage. And if you can't find either of those, you certainly can use spinach. Introducing ginger and garlic bring great flavor to this recipe. Both aid in highlighting and elevating the sauce that I'll introduce later. Feel free to load up on the garlic, but be careful with the ginger. And of course, it wouldn't be an Asian-inspired dish without some kind of onion. Here I have a medium-sized sweet onion. You can go light or heavy on the onions depending on your preference, but I like to go heavy. As I mentioned previously, don't hesitate to use pre-packaged or frozen vegetables for this recipe. And in fact, some of the freshest ingredients you can find frozen. So treat this like a stir fry and go for fresh or frozen. And of course, this recipe also calls for green onion. You can use as much as you like, and I'll give some tips later on how you can make these pop in your dish. The first thing you want to do is cut the green onion into thirds, similar to what you see here. I won't use the entire green onion, however I will use as much as possible. As you can see, the part that becomes green and white, I'll slice those in half. That part of the green onion is a bit more fibrous, however it does offer some pungent flavor. Place the green onions into a bowl and off to the side. We'll use them later. As far as the stems are concerned, you can repot these or place them in a clean jar of water. They'll continue to sprout. Next up, I'll work with the Bok Choy. As you can see here, this is the baby version of the Bok Choy. Bok Choy is of the cabbage family, so again, if you don't have Bok Choy at your local grocery store, certainly you can opt for cabbage, which will work well for this recipe. You just want to work with the leafy part, so you can cut the white stem, save it for another recipe or compost. So that you're able to pick these up with a fork or chopsticks, you just want to cut them in half. As you can see here, I don't have any rhyme or reason, I'm just cutting them in half so that they're forkfuls. Once done, you can place them into the bowl with the green onions. Next, I'll work with the onion. You can feel free to cut the onion the way you prefer for this recipe. However, I do prefer using the julienne cutting method for this recipe. You can start by cutting the onion in half and then cutting the stems, or the core as some call it. And of course, you'll need to peel the onion. Cutting the onion in half really does help with peeling the onion. As I mentioned, I'll use the julienne cutting method for this onion. Essentially what that is cutting along these lines on the onion. Those markings will be used as guidelines when cutting the onion. You can slice the onion as you see here. I do recommend using a sharp knife as that will reduce slipping and rubbing. The end product should look similar to this. The slices should resemble the shape of an arch. Using the julienne method for me simply gives a much better experience with the fork when I'm eating noodles. Next is to mince the garlic. Normally I use a mini food processor to dice up my garlic, but because it's out of service, I'm just going the traditional route. Once you're done mincing the garlic, you can move it to the side and prepare the ginger. Here's a few tips for dicing the ginger. You can start by removing the skin on the ginger. Try to stay to the skin as much as possible without cutting into much of the flesh. The next thing you'll do is slice the ginger into planks. What helps is to cut the bottom face of the ginger. This will allow the ginger to sit perfectly on the cutting board without moving. Once all the planks are cut, you'll stack them up on top of one another, similar to what you see here. Next, you'll cut those planks into matchsticks. Exercise steady control so that you don't cut your fingers while holding the ginger. Next, you'll flip the matchsticks and now you can dice the ginger. You can transfer the garlic and the ginger to a clean bowl. Again, if you have a food processor, that's perhaps the easiest and cleanest way to mince garlic and dice ginger. Last but not least, I'll prep the beef. Here I have flank steak, which is commonly found at most grocery stores. If you're working with whole flank, start by cutting it in half. From my experience, it's much easier to slice the steak if we work with it in quarters. Take one half of the flank steak and cut it in half. Once you have the steak cut into quarters, you can begin to slice the steak. Be sure to cut the steak into thin slices, which will help during the marinade process and even cooking during the cooking process. Transfer the steak strips to a clean bowl. When you are ready to marinate, grab the steak strips. As with many of my Asian-inspired recipes, I like to marinate them in soy sauce. Here I'm using dark premium soy sauce. I find that using a few tablespoons will help to season and tenderize the meat. But really what helps to tenderize the meat in a short period of time is baking soda. Here I have a combination of a small amount of baking soda and cornstarch. Believe me when I say if you just use a small amount of baking soda, you won't get a metallic or baking soda taste. Mix with your hand until evenly combined or you no longer see the white powder. It should look similar to this. You can put it to the side for 30 minutes or up to an hour. When you're ready to start cooking, grab a skillet and put it over medium-high heat. Drizzle some cooking oil in the pan. Once the pan is hot and ready to go, you can grab your steak strips and begin to carefully place them into the pan. You can tell the steak has undergone a good marinade when it looks dark in color, similar to this. Once the meat is in the pan, don't touch it, just let it sit. That will help to develop a nice dark crust on the bottom side of the steak. After approximately 2 to 4 minutes on medium-high heat, it should look similar to this when you flip it. And don't worry about cooking the meat all the way through. Once we place it into the wok, it'll finish cooking. When you're done, you can put it over to the side. Grab your stir-fry pan or wok and put it over medium-high heat. Go ahead and oil the pan once it gets up to temperature. The first thing you'll need to cook is the onions to give them a head start. Carefully dump them into the pan and away from your body. Stir the onions so that they're evenly coated in the oil. After approximately 2 to 3 minutes, you can go ahead and add the carrots. You want the onions and the carrots to still have a little bit of integrity and bite at the final stage, so don't cook them for too long. Approximately 2 to 3 minutes is okay. Next, you can add the garlic and ginger and cook that for approximately 30 seconds. Add the bok choy and green onions and allow it to cook for approximately 15 to 30 seconds. I like to use red chili peppers, which are optional. Dump in the beef strips and allow it to cook for approximately 30 seconds. Here's a reminder that the temperature of the pan should be on medium to medium-high heat. Next, I'll add the sauce, and what I have here is a combination of soy sauce, oyster sauce, hoisin, cornstarch, and sesame oil. Stir this long enough until evenly combined. Next, you can add your lo mein noodles. If you don't have lo mein noodles, you can use spaghetti or any other egg-style noodle. If you're starting with dry and not fresh lo mein pasta, I recommend cooking the pasta to al dente. Reason being is considering there are a lot of ingredients in this pot, you don't want to overcook the noodles because you want it to be able to stand up to all the ingredients that will be tossed in this pot. And just like that, you're done. A simple and easy beef lo mein recipe that can be prepared on a weeknight. Dinner is served. Visit theprinceeats.com and The Prince Eats on all social media outlets for more simple and easy meals just like this one.